What?
That's the certification.
Yeah, I know.
It's done in this one.
You took off your sunglasses. I don't recognize you, Yassine. All right, good afternoon. Just a reminder that the Secretary General will leave for a visit to China, where he will speak at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which is a summit being held in Beijing. During his visit, the Secretary General will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and other senior Chinese officials. He will also meet with the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, and other African leaders on the margins of the summit. And he will be back in New York on the evening of December. Let's try that again. He'll be back of September 4th. And just a reminder that we obviously will be closed for the Labor Day holiday on Monday. The Deputy Secretary General, Mina Mohammad, concluded her visit to Oslo in Norway today, where she met with several senior government officials, including Prime Minister Erna Solberg, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of International Development. They also discussed the climate security nexus, multilateralism, the importance of prevention, the challenges facing human rights in today's world, and Norway's strong support for the repositioning of the United Nations. Ms. Mohammed also held a town hall meeting with students at the University of Oslo, and she is on her way back to New York a bit later today. Turning to Lebanon, the High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, wrapped up a visit to Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, where he spoke to the press today. Mr. Grandi said he had discussed the evolving situation in Syria during his meetings, especially the future of millions of people displaced in Syria, as well as the millions of Syrians in neighboring countries. He said the situation in Syria is very political, stressing that the UN Refugee Agency remains a humanitarian organization that is focused on one objective, to support refugees. The High Commissioner also emphasized that the best solution remains voluntary repatriation, adding that people should not be forced to go back. And in Damascus, he said he echoed the appeal regarding Idlib made by the Secretary General to find a solution that spares civilian lives and averts a humanitarian catastrophe. Also on the topic of Lebanon, as you saw yesterday afternoon, the Security Council unanimously approved the renewal of the mandate of the UN Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, which was welcomed by the force's new force commander today, Major General Stefano Del Col. He said the extension of the request of the government of Lebanon reaffirms the importance of maintaining the cessation of hostilities along the Blue Line and the prevailing calm in the UNIFIL area of operation in South Lebanon. And an update on the situation in Gaza, where, as we have said before, the ongoing energy crisis is having a devastating impact on the already dire humanitarian situation. Today, the humanitarian coordinator, Jamie McGoldrick, wrote to the donor community informing them that the United Nations Assisted Emergency Fuel Program, which provides life-saving fuel to operate standby emergency generators at critical health centers, water and sanitation facilities, has now run out of funding. If new funds are not received immediately, we will be facing a potentially catastrophic breakdown in service delivery, whereby services provided at hospitals, clinics, as well as sewage treatment, water and sanitation facilities will cease. Based on the current electricity deficit in Gaza, with up to 20 hours of power outages per day, a minimum of $4.5 million is required to enable the delivery of some 1.4 million liters of emergency fuel per month to sustain these services until the end of the year. And the Secretary General Special Representative for Children Armed Conflict, Virginia Gamba, welcomed today's release of 75 children by the government of Myanmar, which she called an important step in strengthening the protection of children in the country. She said she's encouraged by the positive actions taken today by the government following her visit to Myanmar in May, where she strongly advocated for the release of all children, as well as access to Rakhine, Shan, and Khan State, and the adoption of a children's rights law. She calls for the release of all remaining children from Tatmadao's ranks and for continued collaboration with the UN. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the UN mission there is working with the World Food Program and other partners in preparing for the 4th Ebola treatment center at Makeke. The mission is also supplying food, water, electricity, and tents to medical personnel who are involved in vaccination interventions. And the World Health Organization is continuing to work with the government on a 30-day readiness plan against the Ebola virus in all provinces in the country. The first phase of implementation will prioritize the 6 provinces at the highest risk. The main objective is to ensure that these provinces can mitigate, rapidly detect, investigate, and effectively respond to a possible outbreak of the disease. And Ethiopia, Italy, Spain, Peru, Poland, the Gambia have now endorsed the Declaration of Shared Commitments on Peacekeeping Operations, which we talked to you about a few days ago. As we previously announced, France, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Ukraine, the UK, Pakistan have already endorsed this declaration. The Secretary General sent the declaration to member states as well as international and regional organizations for their endorsements on August 16th. He has requested that member states convey their endorsements by September 14th ahead of the head of state and government event on action for peacekeeping on the 25th of September during the General Assembly. And yesterday afternoon, the Secretary General announced the appointment of Lieutenant General Denis Gillen of Sweden as Force Commander for the UN Multidimensional Integration Stabilization Mission in Mali, otherwise known as MINUSMA. The general succeeds Major General Jean-Paul Deconinck of Belgium, who will complete his assignment on October 2nd. The Secretary General is grateful for his exemplary service and leadership of MINUSMA. As the Chief of the Swedish Defense Staff and Head of Special Forces since November 2014, Lieutenant General Gillen has had a long and distinguished career since joining the Swedish Army in 1983. More on that in a press release. Maggie.
Thanks, Steph. The Nicaraguan government has expelled the Office of Human Rights staffers there, given them till the end of the day, I think, to get out. Are you going to comply? How many staffers are in that office?
Checking. I just saw those press reports. We're checking with our human rights colleagues. We hope to have an update. Staff? Yes, ma'am.
How many people are in that office? How many people will be affected?
I will check.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Masood.
Thank you, Stephane. Stephane, I'd like to know about this resolve of the UNFRG that he will go to Idlib in Syria to vacate the civilians.
So I didn't understand the first part of the question.
Do you have any when is the SRG? This is my question. When is he going to go to Idlib in Syria? To
I think what Mr. de Mistura was saying is that he would do whatever it takes to help avert a humanitarian crisis, and it was that's the vein in which he said it. I have no those discussions on how to best protect civilians and what we can do on the UN side are ongoing, but obviously it is in the hands of the parties to ensure that that all civilians are protected, that civilian infrastructure is protected.
So my question, what are the constraints for him at this point in time that he is unable to go right now?
It's not that he's unable to go. What he was saying, he was trying to bring attention to the issue and said he would do whatever it takes, and those discussions are ongoing. Edie.
As a follow-up on Nicaragua, when you get the numbers, would you also please put out some kind of a reaction statement?
Yeah, will do. Maria.
Yeah, okay.
Did you?
Japan. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, Masood. Go ahead.
Okay, I should go. Okay. I thought you said. I just want to know any reaction from the Secretary General about the arrest of Indian human rights activists and writers and intellectuals yesterday by hordes and there were condemnation from India's own human rights organization and so forth.
I have nothing on. We're obviously taking a look at it, but I have nothing right at this point.
Do you know what these?
I do know. As I said, I have no language on that at this moment.
Thank you.
Yes, madam. Sorry, right, young lady behind you. Your microphone, please. Yep.
Hi, I'm Nishad Mirza from ICAS News, and my question is about, do you have any comments about Argentina economic collapse that happened yesterday and its consequence in the neighboring country?
No, I think that's an issue more directed in terms of the UN system to the International Monetary Fund. Yes, sir. And then, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
The Human Rights Council report on Yemen spoke of war crimes committed by all parties. Now, will the Security Council of the UN refer any of the parties involved to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court?
Well, obviously that's up to the Security Council to take those own decisions. That's a question you need to ask council members. For the Secretary General, the issue of accountability in all these conflicts is a very important one, very much high on the list.
Okay. Follow up, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Is the Secretary General aware of any talks at the moment to reach a ceasefire in Yemen?
Well, there are discussions going on that are being led by his special envoy, Martin Griffiths. As you know, he has extended invitations to the government of Yemen, to the representatives of the Houthis to be in Geneva in early September, as well as women's groups. I think it's very important for Mr. Griffiths that the voice of women be included in the peace, in any peace discussions, any discussions on the cessation of hostilities. Thank you for your patience.
The head of self-proclaimed Donetsk Republic was Alexander Zakharchenko was killed today. So do you have any comments on that? And do you think it underlines the need of sending a UN mission to Ukraine?
We have no, I've just seen the press reports in the last half hour. We don't have any confirmation. Obviously, as a matter of principle, the sending of peacekeepers is a decision that's in the hands of the Security Council. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephane. The armed groups of Central African Republic have united to have negotiations with the government and asking the Russian government to help them in the negotiations. So does the UN have any comment on this?
I think this is something that our colleagues in the peacekeeping mission on the ground are following closely, and I understand they're in touch with the Russians on this issue. Edie and then Maggie.
Thanks, Steph. Late yesterday, the Syrian ambassador came to speak to journalists outside the Security Council and was critical of the Secretary General's comments on Idlib, saying that in their eyes, the comments were biased toward the position of the U.S., France, and the U.K. What's your reaction?
No, I mean, we stand by what the Secretary General said, and I know the ambassador came to see me as well. I think the issue on the issue of chemical weapons, it was this was not a statement that was aimed at any one party in any one country. It was a reaffirmation of a basic principle. Anywhere, anytime, in any country, in any conflict, the use of chemical weapons is prohibited. That was the Secretary General's point. It was not aimed at, in any way, at one party or group of parties. The Secretary General's aim is to put an end to this conflict and to find a peaceful solution for the Syrian people in the future. Maggie.
Steph, it's been basically a work week since the fact-finding mission on Myanmar's report came out, and in it critical of the UN for its own failures. But I've not seen any sort of reaction or statement or anything. We've asked the SG, didn't reply to us.
I think this is the report that the Secretariat is taking very seriously, that all parts of the UN should take very seriously. We look forward to the presentation of the report to the Human Rights Council in September. I think the UN, through its various representatives over the last few years in Myanmar, have always spoken, I think, very loudly and clearly in defense of human rights, in defense of the rights of all minorities in Myanmar, and have also been working as the UN is mandated to do on all sorts of development and other issues with the government of Myanmar. But I think as I said, through the years, and all the representatives who have there have been very consistent in their defense of human rights.
But on the specific recommendation about that the UN should have some sort of internal review, does the Secretariat accept that recommendation?
I think we've read the report, and we're continuing to study it, and we may have something. I mean, that's at this point, that's where we are. Yes, Monsieur.
Stephane, sorry. Thank you. Do you have any update on this Myanmar government's refusal to allow United Nations Special Rapporteur or investigation team to investigate the continued,
As a matter of principle, it is important that all member states cooperate with the human rights mechanisms in the United Nations system. With that, I wish you all a very pleasant, long, and peaceful weekend.